The power of silence. Today, we're going to talk about the power of silence. We'll not only be looking at horror films, but also popular cinema and comedy. The power of silence makes the audience focus on the emotions of the scene and brings people out of the world of sound and into the world of the characters' minds. When I talk about silence, it won't be absolute silence, but near silence. The most common use of silence, or mostly silent moments, is in horror movies. One of the first horror movies to use this technique is M by Fritz Lang. We watch as he hungrily looks at a woman across the way. This makes the audience uncomfortable with the lack of sound design and music in the background, making you really sit through and watch every emotion that goes across his face. When we look at the horror movies, a lot of the time they end up using very scary, cheesy music when it comes to scares. Whereas other cinema ends up using the use of silence to lead up to the danger, making the audience have a feeling of anticipation rather than immediate jump scare. In The Quiet Place, the silence almost becomes a moment of danger, because the monsters would be nearby, so every character has to be as silent as possible. Uses of silence like this makes for much better impact in the film overall than having sound throughout the whole clip. Having silent moments can be very important in cinema when replacing all the dialogue and sound effects in the background. With the next scene from I Am Legend, we watch as the character plays out his emotions in this moment of silence, with only small amounts of dialogue echoing in the background. When you take away all the sounds to only the essential sounds that you want the audience to pay attention to, you can add a lot more suspense and dramatic impact. In popular cinema, there are many memorable moments with the silence being used, especially in moments when characters face loss. Just like in the scene from The Lord of the Rings.
Fly, you fools!
This scene is made more emphasized by the fact that the music cuts in over every other sound while everything else fades out. Now let's see how this scene plays out when we take away everything else except for the music.
Fly, you fools!
Well, it may seem that it doesn't have much of a difference, it can make an impact for the audience when there's less sound design overall in the scene. The last scene I'm going to show is a scene from Doctor Who, where the two characters talk to each other behind the glass by mimicking what they're saying. This gives a different feeling for the audience, where we're left just to watch their faces and see their silly expressions. This use of silence can be fun in different contexts than just horror or intense cinema. Comedy cinema makes for a great use of silent technique like this. Let's watch.
We're interrupting you.
Overall, silence in cinema makes for a very big impact when it comes to emotional storytelling. Where films used to not have sound at all, the use of less dialogue and less sound effects in modern cinema makes for an intentional, emotional feel for the audience. Thank you for listening. I hope this makes you pay attention to the sound a lot more and keep your ears open.